Hello, everybody.
Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, PHLY Eagles show. How we doing, Zach? Loopy day on a Thursday.
I don't know what that was. I'm excited for the show. I'm a little spooked out right now at the moment. I was.
What a professional we are.
Yeah, so much to discuss today. Can I intro the show, or do you have?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yes. Okay, so we have news at the top of the show, which we're about to get to, but we will also kind of set up what the theme of today's show is, and that is the dream trade-up candidates. And what I mean by that, we talked yesterday about how last year Will Anderson would have been the dream trade-up candidate. And
Will Anderson. Everybody knows about Will Anderson. That's not interesting.
Are you gonna have a coherent sentence this show?
That was actually a spot-on Zach Berman impression, I think.
So we'll explain what that means when we get to that part of the show. But the news that I teased is the Eagles are bringing back cornerback, defensive back Avante Maddox, per league source, first reported by Adam Schefter.
Avante tough now.
Yes. So Avante Maddox with the Eagles.
They're bringing Avante back.
The Eagles are. Did someone spike your coffee? I don't know what is going on right now. We were having terrific conversation out there about the Eagles trade-up candidates. We get into this room, and it's like there's laughing gas going on. Okay, while you gather yourself.
I don't know why.
I'll just give a brief overview of this. The Eagles released Avante Maddox earlier this offseason. Avante Maddox had a big cap hit. The Eagles got out of that cap hit. They let him see the market, but there's always interest in bringing him back. So Avante had a chance to see the market. I believe at one point he visited the Saints, and now he returns to Philly, which is a good spot for him. He's in theory the front runner to be the slot cornerback. And when he's been the slot cornerback for the Eagles, he's been productive, he's been effective, he's been tough. The problem is he can't stay healthy. And so my quick hitter on this is that I'm good with bringing Maddox back. I think he's a good player. I think he fits. You just need to have sufficient depth. You can't rely on Maddox being your slot corner throughout the season because he hasn't been able to do that. But I like the idea of bringing him back.
Yeah, I think this is sort of how we expected this to play out, right? Avante Maddox is a very good player when he is healthy. He has real trouble staying healthy. Mm-hmm. And so you let him see the market. The market's probably going to value him as a player who has trouble staying healthy. Yep. And so he goes to New Orleans, as you said. He has one conversation with Dennis Allen and falls asleep because that's the most boring man on the planet, and he's one of the worst coaches in the NFL.
Is he that boring?
The worst coach in the NFL. And Avante's like, oh my God, jeez, give me Matt Patricia or this guy. And so he comes back, and it's probably a very team-friendly deal. Maybe there are some incentives to it. Makes sense. I don't think that they, as you said, are penning Avante Maddox in as their starting nickel corner, but as a member of a secondary, you can certainly do a lot worse. I think it makes a lot of sense. And he's a guy who, by all accounts, people love in the locker room.
Yes. Do you think they gave his locker away, or do you think they kept that open for him?
I mean, I think they probably hadn't even thought about it.
I'm sure these are things they think about. They're putting up the new name tags. People report next on April 15th, tax day, I believe, right? So, I know April 15th is tax day.
When do you do your taxes?
On the process of it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were like a just do them 2 months ahead of time kind of guy.
I'm not a do them 2 months ahead of time. Not a do them 2 days ahead of time. I'm more maybe like 3 to 5 weeks ahead of time.
But you just said you're in the process of doing it, and it's 11 days away.
Yeah, okay, so then let's say 2 weeks. Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, I gathered all my paperwork together. and all that. We went to Florida for the owners' meetings. I mean, I basically took care of everything before the owners' meetings, and now it's just a matter of finalizing everything. But anyways, back to the topic at hand, which is Avante Maddox.
Okay.
Do you have anything more to contribute? Or yeah,
They're bringing Avante back.
Okay, so let's look at the.
You other corners don't know how to act. What?
All right, so C.J. Gardner-Johnson, the Eagles brought him in, and there was talk about the versatility with C.J. C.J.'s here to be a safety. He can play nickel if they need him to, but C.J. Gardner-Johnson's here to be a safety. I want to make that clear. And then I will say that they really don't have the inside-outside versatility for some of these guys returning. I suppose Eli Ricks played in there, but that's not. I'm not looking at Eli Ricks as a nickel at this point. It's not Keely Ringo's game. Certainly not James Bradbury's game. Not Darius Slay's game.
Isaiah Rodgers is a guy who in theory can do it.
Isaiah Rodgers has the body type. He's been mostly on the outside, as you've pointed out. But yeah, he's someone to watch there. They signed Tyler Hall. Is that right? And so
yeah, it is.
Yeah, so they have some options there, but I do think they need to be sufficiently well stocked. Howie Roseman said at the combine they did not do a good enough job last year with depth at that position, and I would agree.
And I think most importantly, if Avante Maddox does indeed make the Week 1 roster or is on injured reserve or PUP, there'll be extra points in my favor in Flu World Order.
There you go. This the things that matter most.
That's exactly right.
Are you? There's people in the chat. We gotta recognize the super chat. Someone said, "Did Bo have insomnia cookies?" And that is a shout out to my work in college.
Back when you lived on Tyler Hall.
No, I did not. I lived when I lived on Sumner Avenue when I had the insomnia cookies delivered to me.
Okay, thank you for correcting the record.
Yes, yeah. That was when I had.
Somebody needs to really do a deep dive into the entire back catalog of this show and the other show, and put together a definitive Zach Berman Wikipedia page that has everything.
And then I was on Livingston Avenue when I had the run-in with the entrepreneurial insomnia cookies delivery man.
Oh, so it spanned multiple eras.
Yeah, it was like
okay.
That was my thing. I would get home from work at 2-3 a.m.
Right.
I have to do my schoolwork. I need a little pick-me-up. Order the 6-pack, the chocolate chip cookies, the M&M cookies, the sugar cookies. Okay, and they come to the door, and I tip the delivery guy, and he tries to see if there's anything else I'm interested in, and I say no. I'm good with.
Who can blame him? Yeah.
I'm good with the cookies, man.
It's a good racket for him.
Yeah, I'm good with the cookies. In any event, let's get back to the topic on hand, which is the draft.
Well, quickly, do you think that bringing Avante Maddox back changes anything about their draft plans?
No, not at all. I think this is stocking them up here at slot. There weren't that many great slot options available, and I would probably say Maddox is probably as good as what's on the market right now. So yeah, it gives them an option there. What you don't want to do in any situation, and we can talk about this with the depth chart, is you don't want to go into the draft saying we need player X, like we need to fill this spot in the draft. And not to say that's what it was at slot cornerback, but I think when the Eagles have made bad picks in the past, and slot's not the same as like wide receiver in 2021 or right guard in 2011. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to say we're going to find, we're keeping this spot open for the draft pick. So yeah, you want to kind of draft proof your roster.
What about safety wise? Do you imagine that there's a possibility that that's where they envision Avante Maddox if they end up drafting a young corner who can play inside? And does this maybe change at all your thoughts on if they're monitoring the Justin Simmons market?
No, I think with Justin Simmons, it's if the price is right? So it's clear Justin Simmons isn't getting right now what he wants. I think the Eagles would have interest if the market comes to them, but I don't think they're going to bring the market up for Simmons. As far as Avante Maddox, it's the old coaching cliche: the more you can do, the more you can do, right? And so,
but the best ability is availability, and
sure,
that has been an issue.
Yes, but if he can do more things, it's going to help him do more things for
But
the
the
for
best
Eagles.
utility is versatility.
Okay. Do you believe it? The best utility that I guess.
Do I believe that? What do you think?
I don't know what happened when you walked through these doors today, man. We were sitting at that desk. We did good. You were here early today. We did good show prep.
Now, why do you say that? When you say that, you make it sound like I'm not usually here early.
That's not at all what I'm making it sound. We get here around the same time every day. There's some days when I'm here first. There's some days when you're here first.
You're correct. I agree.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. You beat me here today. So you were here early today. You had your pen in hand. You were jotting your notes down. You were rolling like you were clued in. It's well known in this office that let's save the small talk for after the show. Because pre-show, Bo's doing his work. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, every day I'm cramming for the test.
So that's my point. I do my show prep a little earlier than that.
Don't be a show off.
I'm not showing off. No, I'm saying so. I'm probably annoying in the office sometimes. I'm more apt for like the small talk with Vince or Julia or whoever's in here. You're keyed in. I respect that. It's not showing off. I do it. Emily's at the gym this morning, 6 a.m. I'm doing show prep.
Big flex.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Okay.
I know I had stairs coming. I didn't have to go to the gym.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like, "You going to the gym?" I say, "No, I'm going up 7 stories today."
Well, I mean, we got to talk about it now. I was going to save this for later, but have you? What's been the reaction in your life to the stairs conversation from yesterday? Have you heard from people around the world?
I've heard from the minions, like the people who worship at the altar of Bo are like, this is the weirdest thing in the world. I've heard from people who say this is a very normal thing, and actually, I researched it online, and I don't want to misquote this, but you almost I think you exert the same amount of energy running up the steps than walking up the steps, for the reason that I said, because of the momentum. Like if you're walking up the steps,
that's how momentum works, but.
No, because you're regenerating every time when you're walking up a step, and so it's. Anyways, we don't have to get into this, but yeah, I heard from some people who said
You heard supporters.
I did. I heard. I don't want to say imitators. People who do the same thing. People who now. This was kind of misconstrued, which often happens on this show, as me being like, Carl Lewis up these steps.
You kept saying the word sprint.
Okay, I meant like hustling up the steps. Go quicker. I go quicker up the steps.
I mean, you and I have been working closely together for a very long time. How is it that we've never walked upstairs together?
I guess we were big elevator people. But this thing, you don't like my elevator habits, and now you don't like my stair habits. So I guess we're best off sitting still. Yeah. Bo doesn't like that I talk to people on the elevators.
It's not always. I just think there's a time and a place.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's weirder, Julia. Do you think it's if you're on an elevator with someone?
Yeah.
Do you think it's just you and them? Okay. Do you think it's weirder just like to stare at the ground, not say anything, or like acknowledge their existence?
I mean, it depends where you are and who you're with. I feel like I would always just say yes. I'd say hello and how are you? What floor if I'm closer. But
sure, general acknowledgement. Let me give you a specific scenario. It's 6 a.m. You're at a hotel, and some guy is like going down for his coffee, and he's got his company's shirt on, and the man is accosted by a peppy morning person who says, "Oh, do you work for that company? That's where I get my dental insurance."
I mean, I'm sure he appreciated it, but I would probably be with the sunglasses on and silent, and that would not be. I would not be.
I mean, first off, we weren't
is it good? And then it's like, "Oh, is it a good company to work for?" And like,
yeah, he asked me how the dental insurance was, and I was pretty honest with him. And he said, "I've heard that." Yes. But yeah, I didn't think that was a bad thing. And I'm not asking for like pertinent personal conversation on the elevator there. What I'm trying to do is you're just making it. You're being friendly. I think it's weirder if you're just like staring at the floor, not saying anything.
I think the whole thing is to read the situation, read what you think if the other person wants to talk. If you got a Zach Berman in there, have a little conversation. But not everybody's a Zach Berman. Some people want to just look at their phone and tune out for a couple seconds.
He wasn't. If he was on his phone, he wasn't on his phone. He was literally standing there, and we nodded at each other. And I said to him, I said, "Oh, that's
so
why
he
I get
was
my
asking
dental
for it.
insurance."
You're saying?
No, I think he was happy to have the conversation. You know, he's someone. He's in the Phoenix Airport Hotel at 6 a.m. He's probably like, you know, a go-getter, an ambitious person. He's going down to the gym. He's here on business, and he was happy to have the conversation.
Well, Zach, the good news is we have him here right now to answer the question. Here he is.
Yeah. All right.
Lastly, I do need to circle back to the stairs.
Oh God! All right, let's talk football.
The genesis of this part of your life, is this like, do all the Bermans run up the stairs, or is this something that you came upon, you read somewhere at some point in your life and decided, I'm going to be one of these people?
First off, it's not one of these people. I thought you meant the elevator conversation, because my brother is actually the opposite. My brothers are like, think it's weird when someone talks to them in the elevator. I had a brother, or I have a brother,
smart guys,
who lived in a building at one point, and when he moved, he was like, the best part about that is he didn't have to see people in the elevator.
My kind of guy.
So yeah, honestly, I never thought of the stairs thing until yesterday, and I think
you've been running upstairs your whole life.
I think I overstated it, but yeah, I don't. I'm faster on stairs than I am. I'm not like a fast walker, but I'm fast on stairs. I don't know. I haven't thought much about it, and I think we've allocated far too much time in this show to this.
I could do like 3 more hours on the stairs.
Yeah, let's spend the 3 hours on the draft on the trade up targets.
Well, you know, we promised that we're going to get to the draft eventually, and I don't know that it's going to happen today, because let me first tell you about our friends at Olipop. Boom, boom, boom. Olipop is, you know, Olipop. We've been talking about Olipop. You need to get that gut health fixed, and Olipop is here to fix that gut health for you. 2 out of 3 Americans say that they suffer from digestive issues, and 95% of Americans don't get the daily recommended amount of fiber. Well, Olipop is tackling both of these important issues with a drink that tastes just like soda. Research has linked some of those issues to poor gut health, so taking care of your microbiome may be one solution to your digestion problems. Prebiotic fiber is the food source for the beneficial probiotic bacteria in your gut, and Olipop has 9 grams of prebiotic fiber in every can that can help support your digestive health. Olipop has delicious, nostalgic flavors like vintage cola, classic root beer, orange squeeze, classic grape, strawberry vanilla, cream soda, and cherry cola. They also have a Dr. Pepper similar flavor called Dr. Goodwin, and a brand new Sprite-like flavor with lemon lime. Olipop now available in Wawa. Olipop's debut in Wawa couldn't be more of a match made in heaven. A delicious, healthy drink meets a convenience store, both adored by a cult following. The 2 flavors you can get in Wawa are their best sellers, classic root beer and strawberry vanilla. Use the code PHLY20 for 20% off your next Olipop order. The discount applies only to one-time orders, not to subscription orders. Olipop is sold online at drinkolipop.com. That's drinkolipop.com. It's also on Amazon, and it's available in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including Wawa, Target, Sprouts, Wegmans, ShopRite, and Go Puff. Go, sprint up the stairs and get yourself some Olipop.
I was putting my kids to sleep last night. The Phillies game hadn't started, and there was a thought in my mind that in a former life, like before I had a family, before I had kids, what I would have done on a night like that was
Let's keep it PG.
Was gone to the ballpark, right? Because you can find some great deals on a game that was delayed, and if that was happening, the first place I would have turned would be Game Time. Because Game Time has great last-minute deals for tickets. It's now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. So just imagine what those prices would have been when first pitch is delayed a few hours. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. And these last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off when you buy last minutes for sports, concert, comedy, and theater. You save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the event. There's this new feature that I've really been interested in seeing, and that's zone deals, where you save even more when all you have to do is choose a section, and Game Time chooses the seats for you. And they have all-in pricing, which is important to me, because you can toggle this feature, and it shows what your tickets are up front with no surprise fees at checkouts. It always bothers me. I was getting tickets recently for something, and I saw these ticket fees, and I'm like, this is not the price that I thought I was going to pay. That's where Game Time is terrific. And they have the lowest price guarantee with Game Time ticket coverage as well. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. For a limited time, all users can get $20 off any MLB purchase of $150 or more in the Game Time app with code FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. That's code FIRSTPITCH for $20 off, and I should spell it out, FIRSTPITCH. For $20 off from March 25th to April 14th, so right before tax day. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Sorry, how do you spell it?
FIRSTPITCH.
Actually, it's IT.
FIRSTPITCH.
IT.
My son loves that joke. Okay. Yeah, because yes, yeah, we do these riddles together, and yes,
it's a good one.
He does this thing, this one. Are you smart? And then he does like, what's 2 + 2? What's 4 + 4? And he keeps going up all the way, to like, to the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And then he says, "What was the first question I asked?" And the first question is, "Are you smart?" Not what's 1 + 1. But he thinks this is like the best riddle for people. So yeah, that's like
I like that.
How do you spell it? Yep,
My kind of guy.
yeah, reads the best.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Can I tell you? I have perfected an impression.
Oh goodness. I just want the audience to know I have nothing to do with this. Whatever this is going to be, if this is offensive, if this is funny, please absolve me of any type of responsibility for what Bo's about to do.
This may, I think, not a single person may recognize this, but in my house, this is I've nailed it. This is the dinosaur train conductor. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Well, bless my scales and pull my tail.
Okay. Good work. Good work.
Thank you.
I'm not sure where that's from, but that's good work.
I told you, the dinosaur train conductor.
Oh, is that the name of the show?
Dinosaur train.
Dinosaur Train. Gotcha. Good stuff.
Bless my scales and pull my tail.
Doesn't work.
You got to go up at the end there.
In case you get a kick out of that.
I mean, it's killing everybody. It's great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's better
And
than
then
your...
there's also there's
What if Kirk Cousins was the conductor?
There's also the dinosaur who is sort of an Elvis ripoff. It's like, "Hey, little mama."
Okay.
I'm a little bit scared of that crowd, little mama. Hey, a little Thurston Trudon. No, nothing.
I mean, I'm not familiar with the show, but yeah, it sounds
Bless my
great.
scales and pull my tail.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Okay.
See, we got some fans.
All right. Good.
All right. Okay. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. We're going to talk draft tomorrow. We promise. We're finally going to get to it.
No, let's get to these straight up candidates.
The thought exercise here, Zach,
Yes.
is we talked yesterday about Howie Roseman's draft history, the proclivity to move up, but those have been small move ups.
Sure.
Now, part of that is because they've been picking a little bit higher, and so there's less room to move up, but they are at 22. It is rare for them to stay put. I actually think there's a good chance that they do stay put this year, but what we want to do now is talk about not the guys who are sort of small trade-up possibilities, like the Andre Dillard situation from a couple years ago, the guys who might be tempting for them to move up significantly. And let's define that as they have 2 second-round picks, somebody they would be willing to give up one of those second-round picks to move up for. So you're probably talking about the 13 to 16 area. and there might be some give back, like you give up a second, you get back a third or a fourth, something like that. But guys who they would view as like difference-making players and worth giving up, significant capital. Now, I have 5 guys here, and they're like 4 of them I can sort of squint and see it, and like I could see how Howie Roseman would talk himself into it. But there's really only one guy who I view as a realistic possibility. But we can sort of go through it all.
But man, I just want to give you credit because I think that's a good way of framing it. When I texted you about this on the ride home from work yesterday, I was thinking that I didn't know how to define this, because you can say, all right, well, trade up for Marvin Harrison Jr., right? No, it needs to be like a realistic type trade up thing. So saying you're not giving up next year's first, but you're willing to give up one of your seconds. So that gets you. So really, if a player drops out of the top 10 and they're in that, let's say 11 to 16 range, 12, I think you said 13 to 16. That's a really good way of framing it.
And I'll tell you, I actually have, this is not necessarily done on purpose, but I have 5 guys in 5 different positions.
Okay.
Do you want me to start, and we can?
Yeah, you start, because I think the guy you're thinking of is probably my top guy as well.
Okay. I think now I'm going to start here with the guy who is probably the least realistic to drop. But if he did, I could see them talking themselves into it. And that is, I do not believe that they want to draft an edge in the first round. I do not believe that they should draft an edge in the first round. However, I do think if there were circumstances that led to Dallas Turner dropping to like the 12 to 14 range, I think that they would be interested. Now, Dallas Turner is, you can give us the full report here, but actually all of my guys here, they sort of check almost every box. He just turned 21, contributor as a true freshman, 3 years of productivity, a little bit of a drop as a sophomore, 10 sacks as a true junior, a little bit undersized, 6'3", 247. So that would be the one knock, although his top athletic comp on Mock Draftable, your boy, Josh Sweat. But otherwise, 88th percentile wingspan, 80% arm length, great testing numbers, 4.46 40, which was a 98th percentile, 40.5-inch vert, which was 97th percentile, 92nd percentile broad jump. So you can understand that this is a super athlete whose limitations are a little bit like power, right? But knowing the things that the Eagles care about, a guy who was productive at a young age, at an elite school, at an important position, that's a guy who I think would intrigue them. Yeah, you and I are in alignment on this. Dallas Turner, to me, he's the best edge rusher in the draft, and there's no one close. Latu, Jared Verse, Chop Robinson. There's a drop off. There's a tier of 1. And that's what you look for when you're trading up too, is you don't want it, you're not going to trade up for a guy you can get a comparable player at your spot. Those other guys you mentioned, I haven't done my full deep dive on them, but generally speaking, I would have no interest from the Eagles' perspective. So I mean, Chop Robinson athletically, but maybe but you'd have to move down, I think. But Dallas Turner, for the reasons you mentioned, the age, the production, he was starting on Alabama's defense as a true freshman. Crazy, right? That says something. This was for all the recruiting nerds like me out there, and we'll get some recruiting conversation in here as well. He was just a 5-star coming out of Fort Lauderdale, a true. Everyone wants this guy in the country type player. The size, you hear that knock. He did put on weight when he was at Alabama, or he put on strength, I should say. He came in much leaner than he is now. 34-inch arms, which is really good for someone who's 6'3" or thereabouts. Was a team captain at Alabama. Was the best player on that defense. Well, that's not true. Caleb Downs, but. He was the guy who you always circled. He can drop. You're not drafting a guy because he can drop, but that just shows you the athletic ability that he has. You saw the sack production. You see the athleticism. 4.46 is absurd. And all the other measurements there, you mentioned Josh Sweat. That's an interesting mock draftable one. The player he reminds me of was Brian Burns coming out of Florida State. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable comparison. And Dallas Turner, to me, is if he gets past Atlanta, let's say,
then you start to say, all right, you got to think about this because, look, the Jets were a team that you imagine might have been on them. Now the Jets get Hassan Reddick. So if he slips past 10, then I think he can be a difference-making edge, and I think he's the clear top edge rusher in this draft.
I think I agree with you, and because of that, I don't really understand why it even seems to be a possibility that he could fall out of the top 10. I mean, you're going to have 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. You got 3 receivers who are definitely going, couple tackles maybe, but like he is a guy who I could convince myself is worth giving up that second-round pick for. The other concern you got to wonder about is this is an Eagles team in the NFC East. You got to play Dallas. Do you feel uncomfortable having a player named Dallas on the team?
Yeah, or you'd have 2 Dallases. You'd have twice as many Dallases as. They just need to bring Dallas Reynolds back as the assistant offensive line coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Les Bowen on that one.
Yeah.
But so I hear what you're saying. I saw a clip on social yesterday from our friends at CHGO. Adam Hogue does a terrific job covering the Bears there, and he was talking about wide receivers specifically, and he's like, he keeps hearing and seeing that there's going to be 3-4 wide receivers taken in the top 10, and his point was wide receivers tend to slip. Like teams build teams build on the lines of scrimmage. So
I was wrong about this in the 2020 draft, 2021. Yeah, I thought that like Judy and Lamb and Waddle, or not Waddle, it was
so the 2020 draft,
2020,
the Jalen Reagor year. Yeah.
Yes, the 2020. Yeah. Where I thought those guys were going to go earlier.
Yeah.
And they all slipped to like the mid-teens.
That and there was a run on tackles in that draft too. And so it does surprise me that like real credible draft people, when they do their mock drafts, have Dallas Turner sometimes if he gets past Atlanta or Tennessee, like in those early teens. And I'm like, wow, if he's there, I would offer my second-round pick because he's a rare prospect in my eyes.
Okay. I'll give you my next one. And this is another one where and this is why I think they're going tackle, because we've talked about how I don't love the framing of you draft a guy based on what the contract value is, relative to that. The draft is about getting the best players you can. And at important positions. And because this draft is so deep at tackle, it is a rare opportunity to get a very good tackle at 22.
Yep.
And I don't know that there's too much separation between, guys 2 or 3 through 7. But let's assume that Joe Alt goes in the top 10 and he's out of the picture. The one guy who I could see them moving up for, and probably not like, this is not like a Dallas Turner move up. It would be more of like to 15, 16. Just the profile. I think Olu Fashanu is the guy who makes sense to me.
Yep.
The Penn State tackle, obviously. Now, this is a guy who has only played left tackle. Yep. And we talked about, I don't think that is a negative for the Eagles. I think Jordan Mailata's versatility is a factor here. Turns 22 in December, so he's only 21. Rotational player in 2021, then 2 years as a starter. His, sacks and quarterback hits numbers he gave up are great. Not enormous at 6'6", 312. And he's got those itty-bitty, teeny-tiny hands. 8.5 inches, which is the exact same size as Kenny Pickett's hands. Kenny Pickett's got the small hands for a quarterback. He's got small hands for a left tackle, but other than that, and that's maybe one of the reasons that he might fall. In terms of like the athleticism, the rare traits of the way that he moves, something that Jeff Stoutland might be intrigued by. He's the one guy who I could see them viewing as differentiated from Fatanu and Fuaga and Tyler Guyton and Amarius Mims.
Yeah, so I'm with you there, and I had him on this list when I first sorted it out, and I agree with you, and I think in his case, in Fashanu's case, there's almost like post-hype fatigue, if you will.
I think that's right.
Because like going into the year, he was viewed as like the top tackle. You kept hearing, it was a surprise when he went back to Penn State this past year because he would have been the top tackle in last year's draft. And I don't think there was anything this past year that really pushed him down the board. Joe Alt's kind of gotten pushed up the board. Quarterbacks and wide receivers are outstanding. But yeah, Fashanu, when you look at the age, when you look at like the athletic profile, I know sometimes you can make where I can make too much about this. You look like the personality profile, like a really smart guy, a finalist for the Campbell Award, which goes to the top student athlete in college football. He went to high school with Caleb Williams at like an elite private school in Washington D.C.
Gonzaga.
Yeah, and so he's there's a
Dan
lot.
Dickow taught him how to play.
Not Dan Dickow was not there, but yeah,
Do you have this problem with Tyler Guyton? Does he make you always think of AJ Guyton?
Not at all. Not
Really?
one, yeah. There are more than one Guyton in there. There's more than one Guyton in the world. Yeah.
Not as far as I'm concerned.
So I hear you there. He is someone I would trade up for. Now, the one thing that I wondered is he's, and again, I'm not an offensive line expert. We're going to have a lot of offensive line talk. We hope to bring in people on the show who can kind of give expert opinions on this. But from those I've read and from the people I've spoken to about this, he doesn't necessarily have the guard profile, right? And so if you're looking like, all right, who can start? Now, that doesn't mean you can't learn, but who can start for you day one at guard? I don't think that should be a factor in making the decision. You just take the best
Right.
player, but
This is your chance to get a starting tackle
Yes.
for the next, I hate saying 10 years because that's so outrageous,
Sure.
but for the next 6 years.
Yeah, but I do think with offensive tackles, you think 10 years with offensive tackles. Some other positions, like I don't think when you draft a corner or wide receiver, you might be thinking 10 years. I think offensive tackle, the lifespan at that position, you're hoping it's a two contract guy. So I like that. And I'm on board with you there. And it does surprise me because going into the draft,
Do you like him second best of the group?
I do. And I thought going into this draft cycle that he'd be the top guy based on the production, based on the athletic profile. Joe Alt has seemed to jump above him. Joe Alt's interesting in that going into the year at Notre Dame, like Joe Alt and Blake Fisher were both viewed as like elite bookends, and Joe Alt kind of took his game to another level. There's a lot to like about Joe Alt, just a really productive player, 6'9", brother of a former Philadelphia Flyer, actually, Mark Alt. Joe Alt really seems to be the top guy there. But yeah, I think Alt and Fashanu are the top two. I keep seeing, Fuaga from Oregon State kind of being pushed in there. And maybe that's the case. I'll admit, I learned more about Fuaga at the start of this draft process. I didn't know as much about him during the season. I guess I wasn't staying up late.
Skepticism
I wasn't staying up late enough, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah.
I have general skepticism about offensive linemen who, like, the very first thing that people say in why they're good is that they're nasty.
Okay, yeah.
Like, it reminds me of Trevor Penning
Oh,
from
yeah,
a couple years
yeah.
ago.
Who-
Like, oh, great. Like,
Yeah, who the
he's
Saints might draft over.
trying to beat up people at the Senior Bowl. Meanwhile, Kyron Johnson's, like, dusting him around the edge.
Yeah.
Let's calm down a little bit. I think Fuaga is a fine prospect, but yeah, I would rather take the guy who's athletically gifted.
So then I will go here with the offensive tackle. I will give you, because I was thinking of Fuaga here, but I'm saying, am I really kind of putting this on Fuaga? And maybe I'm leaning toward big school guys, but J.C. Latham is interesting to me in that, like, a really strong player at Alabama, has some guard versatility. I think he can play guard. There's a little bit of Sean Andrews to his game in terms of, like, the overpowering size, like the physicality. You're smirking here.
I'm trying to remember the song. Get your Michael Phelps on, your Michael Phelps on. Get your Michael Phelps on, your Michael Phelps.
JC, so
That's for the real heads out there.
yeah. So look, I'm probably on brand here, going with two Alabama guys so far. But J.C. Latham, who is a right tackle, who just huge. Like, you see J.C. Latham, like, between him and Amarius Mims, you can block the sun, right?
Hey-o.
But I think if he's someone who now, he was a right tackle in college, but if you say, all right, he can be Lane Johnson's replacement, but he can also step in and play right guard for you, that's the offensive tackle that I put here. But I would rather trade up. I would rather trade up for Fashanu than for Latham.
Do you view my issue with now, is it Latham or Latham?
Sorry,
I think it's Latham, but I don't know that for sure.
Latham. Let's go Latham.
My issue is I don't know that I view him as differentiated from the rest of those guys, and I would not give up a second round pick
yeah.
with like confidence that he's going to be that much better. Like I would rather have Tyler Guyton and a second round corner than just J.C. Latham.
Yeah, I am with you there because it goes back to our Dallas Turner argument. You look at tiers. Where's the drop off? And so if you say and Fashanu are the two top ones, then Fashanu's there, then you trade up for them because maybe you can get Mims or you can get Guyton, and you don't know if there's the differentiation compared to J.C. Latham.
All right, before we keep on keeping on, let's talk about Moses Foco. Foco is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. Foco has been with us since day one. It's the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. If you're going to a basketball or a hockey game or a baseball game, now that the season has started, show off your love with team-branded friendship bracelets. Whether it's hoodies, jackets, beachwear, or even overalls, there is something for fans for almost every occasion. Plus, Foco has hooked PHLY up and provided awesome pieces for our sets, which you can see behind us. Foco always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY10 for 10% off. Go check it out. Click around. Hard-pressed not to find something that you want on Foco.
I was pumped to see my most recent Instagram follower. It was Philly Sports Trips. And I'm pumped to see that because Philly Sports Trips does a great job. I was monitoring very closely the trip to Clearwater where people had a great time. Our PHLY Philly staff was there. Fans got to meet Charlie Manuel, hang out with him. And Philly Sports Trips, they plan the whole experience out from flights and hotels to game tickets and transportation. I've been on their website a few times in the past few weeks looking at their Brazil itinerary. Really impressed by that. You should be on the lookout for more events throughout the year with Philly Sports Trips. We're pumped to have them as a partner here at PHLY. And don't wait to book. Head to allphly.com/events to learn more about potential trips that are coming up.
All right, let's have the Brock Bowers conversation.
Yes, all right. You knew where I was going here. Okay, he's my third guy, and I'm ready to have this conversation.
All right. Brock Bowers.
You didn't even let me introduce it. You just said, you knew me that well. You knew me that well.
Brock Bowers is the best tight end prospect since the last best tight end prospect of a generation. Right?
Since Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Very productive.
Extraordinarily.
Played as a true freshman. 882 receiving yards and 13 touchdowns as a true freshman. Comes back the next year, 63 catches for 942 yards and 7 touchdowns. And then last year, missed some time with an injury, but in 10 games, had 714 receiving yards with 6 touchdowns. That's more production per game than it was over the course of the beginning of his career. He turns 22 in December, so he's only 21. He can block. He's from Napa, which, I mean, like, if you're getting real concussion uncle, like, do you really want a guy on the line of scrimmage who's like sipping wine? No, probably not.
There's more Napa than sipping wine.
No, there isn't. And yet his name is Brock Bowers, which is a great name for a tight end.
Really high level analysis here.
All that stuff. You sell me on it.
Okay.
I believe that this is a possibility.
Yeah. So okay,
I would not like.
So Howie says. So Howie's in the room, and he's gathering all his scouts and executives and different analysts.
Now is Tom Donahoe here?
No, Tom Donahoe's not here. And Howie says, everybody write down on a piece of paper who in this draft has the best chance of becoming an All-Pro player. Okay, the best player at his position in this league, and I'm going to collect this. And we're gonna tally it, and the player whose name is highest, the player who gets the most votes is the player we're going to target. He tallies that. The name that will come up the most is Brock Bowers. More than unless you feel Caleb Williams is going to be like the best cornerback or the best quarterback in the NFL. Unless you feel Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the best wide receiver in the NFL. Unless you feel Joe Alt's going to be the best tackle in the NFL.
And what about Malik Neighbors?
Or I like Roma Dunze, but
really,
yeah,
we're gonna have a disagreement there.
Okay, Brock Bowers, in my opinion, has the chance to be the best tight end in the NFL. He is so productive, elite at getting open, elite at running after the catch. He doesn't have standout size. He did not run. You don't really know what his measurements are. But when you watch Georgia, and you could say he was the best player on the field, offense or defense. And they had great defensive players. You watch him as a true freshman against Alabama. He took over games. The recruiting nerds out there who are watching this will remember Alabama brought in Darnell Washington and Art Gilbert, like 2 5-star tight ends, great players. They couldn't get on the field over Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers was the number 1 receiver on the national championship teams as a true freshman. He was better than Adonai Mitchell, who is who's outstanding this year in the draft. He was better than George Pickens. Like, Brock Bowers was the top guy in the offense, and he's been that way for 3 years. So if you're saying we're giving up a first and a second round pick for a player, for what you want is someone who has the highest likelihood of being an elite player. Now, it's not an elite position, but it's an elite player. And I think that's what Brock Bowers could be. That's number 1. Number 2, if you go with the Bo Wulf theory of how can we upgrade this offense, right? Brock Bowers can play in the slot for you. I believe.
Miss me with that.
Okay. Dallas Goedert is, as we've said a number of times on this show, is older than Zach Ertz when the Eagles drafted Goddard, is older than Brent Selleck when the Eagles drafted Zach Ertz. But in addition to that, Dallas Goedert's coming off his lowest yards per game since the 2020 season. So Goddard's production's down. Not just the health, but the production's been down. I still think Dallas Goedert's a really good player. But if you go from Goddard to Bowers, you feel real good about what that tight end room is going to look like post Goddard. I think he has the ability to day 1 upgrade your offense, and then year 2, year 3 be one of the elite players in the league at his position. The ability to get open, the ability to run after the catch, the ability to be used around the formation. You've seen Dallas Clark comps. You've seen George Kittle comps. I think that years from now, there's going to be Brock Bowers comps. I think he's a better player than what Sam Laporta was coming out of Iowa last year. Sam Laporta was a major difference maker for the Lions. So, yeah, I can absolutely sell you on Brock Bowers if your logic is let's find the player who has the chance to be the best player at his position in the NFL.
I think there is connectivity between Saquon Barkley, the decision to sign him, and the possibility of drafting Brock Bowers on a couple fronts. It is, if we need to make this offense a top 5 offense in the league while adding weaponry that's not necessarily going to upset A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I could see yourself talking yourself into Brock Bowers. I think what you said about Dallas Goedert is the most important thing here, and it's not that they need to upgrade tight end 2. It's that Dallas Goedert, there's a bit of a risk that he is about to fall off a cliff. Mm-hmm. His production has waned, and he has trouble staying healthy. So I can sort of see that. There is also what would worry me a little bit is some of the worst Howie instincts of, look at this splash I made. Everybody's going to pat me on the back around the league. Look what I did. I named I got the buzziest guy possible, without really thinking it through. Oh my gosh, they got Brock Bowers. They got another Georgia guy too. Oh my gosh. I have concerns about the player and the value. He looks awesome. Part of there's a lot of times where he's just so wide open, where it's he's schemed open. That bothers me a little bit. That doesn't bother me, but it's that's not going to be the case in the NFL. Also, his superpower is breaking tackles. Is that going to be now? Dallas Goedert is good at that too, but is that going to be something that he can do against NFL level competition? The SEC is as close as it gets. That's true. I think he's probably a good player. I think he's probably going to be a very good player. There's a good chance he's a Pro Bowler. If you had to bet on anybody being a Pro Bowler, he might be the guy. Now, it has changed a little bit in recent years that tight ends used to take a long time. It used to be a 3-year deal before a tight end was really even functional in the NFL. That has changed a little bit recently. Laporta is one of those. But the big problem here, to me, is like the confidence interval, the range of outcomes. If he is not a Pro Bowl tight end, if he is not one of the 4 best tight ends in the league right away, it's a bad pick. And to give up your second-round pick to move up to get him, I cannot believe that is the best use of the resource.
Okay. Look, I hear what you're saying,
but I don't think I don't think that it's off the table.
You know, I don't love the idea of trading up for a non-premium position, and so I get that. Now there is this idea that tight ends are undervalued, and maybe that during the lifetime of Brock Bowers' deal, there's a market correction there. I mean, you know, Travis Kelce's the number 1 receiver in Kansas City, right? Now, I'm not saying Brock Bowers is going to become Travis Kelce, but I am saying, I suppose I am, because I'm saying he can become the best player at his position in the NFL. When you said that about Howie, it kind of tapped into something that I'm curious your thoughts on this. I guess, what do you think is more important to Howie? Hitting big or not missing? Because I frame it that way as saying, like, because you said, oh, there's all this talk, look, Howie Roseman got him. I don't think you're worried about Brock Bowers missing. Maybe Brock Bowers doesn't become All-Pro. Maybe he's just like a Pro. I shouldn't say just a Pro Bowl, but like if you trade up for someone, if you trade up for an offensive lineman who's like Andre Dillard and you just miss on him, or if you take Jalen Reagor and he misses, like maybe there's this instinct where like take the guy who the floor is high enough where you're not going to look back and you say, man, you missed on that pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always think that saying like a guy has a high floor is, you know, it's the Aaron Curry conversation, right? This guy's as safe as it gets. You would have said the same thing about Kyle Pitts, right?
Yeah.
Like this guy's going to be great.
I mean, he is great, but
he isn't great.
I mean,
he has a chance to still be functional. He is not great.
He was outstanding as a rookie. He got hurt, and that brought his value down in these last 2 years, the injury. But yeah, I mean, I'm still give me all your Kyle Pitts stock. Like I will put it all I'll put all my chips in the table for Kyle Pitts.
They took Kyle Pitts over Jamar Chase, didn't they? Or did Chase go first?
Yeah, Chase went first.
Or they took him
over Waddle. I believe. Yeah,
they took him over Waddle. They took him
over
over
Devontae Smith. Yeah,
they took him over Surtain and Horn.
That's true.
And Penei Sewell, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. They did take him over Chase. He went 4. Yeah. Chase went 5.
Which is the perfect framing.
They should have taken Sewell, premium position.
But it's the perfect framing. They took a tight end over the top receiver in the draft, and he's been just okay. They could have had the best receiver in the NFL.
I mean, his rookie year, he had 68 catches, 1,000 yards, 15 yards of reception.
Well, he had 60 catches.
68 catches.
That's the end of that.
1,000 yards. Yeah. All right, I hear your point. I think Pitts is a star, but I hear your point. We don't need to relitigate Kyle Pitts 3 years later.
But I mean,
especially when he grew up right over there.
Well, that is the conversation. Like,
yes,
you know, now it's a little bit different because you would be, you're not drafting him at 4. You'd be, trading up to draft him at 16 or whatever. But trading up is also is actually, I think, kind of similar to taking a guy at 4. Like, you better be sure.
Sure.
And if he's just hitting like his 80 percentile outcome, that's not good enough.
Yeah, so he is on Daniel Jeremiah's board. He's the 7th overall player. So the idea of getting like a
so
top 10 player on this draft.
And it's when you're going to take a guy at a non-premium position and value him that highly, like he has to be one of the best. And I don't know that I can say with certainty that he's going to be one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this board. He's and again, like I'm not saying Daniel Jeremiah is gospel, but Daniel Jeremiah does this really well. He's worked in the Eagles front office. He's the top non-quarterback, non-wide receiver on the board.
And but that's also evaluating the player, not the value.
Exactly. Yeah, that's evaluating the player, not the value. So I'm saying, so it goes to my original argument is you say, who is the best chance of being an all-pro player in this draft? And I would say that is, I mean, maybe I would say I love Marvin Harrison Jr., but there's a lot of really good receivers. I think Brock Bowers has a chance to be the best tight end in the NFL.
Okay. Two more guys.
Yeah.
And I still have not gotten to the guy who I think is the most likely. I'm going to give you one more first. And boy, would it be odd if they drafted a defensive tackle for the third consecutive year. But I could see them being intrigued by Byron Murphy II.
Okay.
Now, so impressive that Byron Murphy, the corner, was able to have a son at about 5 years old, and that he grew into be such a productive defensive tackle. But
And a lot bigger. Yeah,
and a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy II from Texas, still 21, turns 22 in September. Undersized, right? You get sort of the Grady Jarrett comps with him. He's 6'1.5", 297. Rotational player for 2 years, and then as a true junior last year, 5 sacks from the interior. Tested pretty well at the combine, 91st percentile 40, 83rd percentile 10-yard split, all that stuff. The reason that I think I could see them talking themselves into Byron Murphy is this is a situation where we are the best spot for him, right? Because if we have Jordan Davis plugging up the middle and Jalen Carter attracting the attention to his right, and you put Byron Murphy to his left, and he's just going to feast on one-on-ones, he's going to eat. And if we are throwing the fastballs on the outside, we can dominate the middle of the line. I could see them talking themselves into that. To me, this would not be like give up a second-round pick. This would be more like move up 4 spots or something like that. But he's a guy who I think, it would be wild to draft a defensive tackle 3 years in a row, but I could sort of see themselves talking themselves into him.
Yeah, they'd be wild to take one 3 years in a row.
But I would rather have him, and I think they would rather have him than any of those second-tier edge rushers.
Sure.
Right?
I just think, what does it say? That would basically make Jordan Davis an early down run stuffer. You're saying this is what Jordan Davis is.
But we've had 2 years to watch.
Sure.
Let's not pretend that
it takes away
count on something else coming.
It takes away Jordan Davis playing in even fronts.
They rotate. There's enough snaps for them. But also, Jordan Davis is not going to be counted on to play a ton on even downs, even fronts.
So yeah, look, if you're saying let's just talk about the best players, I get that. If you trade up 3 years in a row for a defensive tackle, I'm saying, Howie, is this the best way to use your resources? But yeah,
I agree.
Okay.
But it's a position we know they care about. It's a way that they could build the team. I could squint and see it. I don't think it's super likely.
Yeah.
But I could squint and see it.
And who's your most likely one?
My most likely one, and this is to the conversation we've had about the position. I don't know that I think that they will have a ton of confidence that they can stick at 22 and differentiate between the
corners,
the second tier of corners. But to me, Terrion Arnold is everything that they want. Played on a very good defense early. Now he redshirted his freshman year, but then 2 years playing. He was an All-American last year as a redshirt sophomore. He's not like an elite athlete test out of the gym, which is a reason why he might be within range. 5'11", 189. He has played inside, so there are paths to immediate playing time wherever you want. We'll see how Avante Maddox does. But I could see them, and let's say some other team values, Quinion Mitchell more.
Sure.
Because I don't think the Eagles would. But let's say that Quinion Mitchell goes like 13 or something like that. And all of a sudden, at 15, 16, Terrion Arnold is still there on the board. I could absolutely see, and I think that he is the player who I would view as the most likely trade up possible for them to go get him at a position of short and long-term need, and a guy who checks every box.
I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I don't know if I personally have the confidence that he is a cut above the corner you're going to get at 22. If that is the case, then absolutely. And I see what you're saying. If you feel that there's a tier of Mitchell and Arnold, and Mitchell goes first, and Arnold's there at 15 or 16, you're moving up. You're calling up Cincinnati, and you're saying, I want to go get Arnold. What's it going to take?
He looks to me like the best prospect of the bunch by a significant margin.
Yeah. So then, corners are hard. To me, he's not. I don't feel the way about Terrion Arnold the way I felt about Sauce Gardner, or the way I felt about Derek Stingley, or the way I felt about Patrick Surtain, or the way I felt about J.C. Horn. And now that could evolve here. But I think that, he's probably the best of this group, I would say. But I look at this group as kind of like the strength here is that there's good corners like, let's say 3 to 6. You're going to get good, there's good players there. I would rather stick and pick at 22 and take, a Cooper DeJean or, Kool-Aid McKinstry or someone of that nature at corner than saying, all right, I'm going to give up another pick to get Arnold. But I agree with the logic. If you feel there's a clear difference between him and Kool-Aid, between him and Cooper DeJean, then it's worth giving up a pick because that is such a hard position. And if you have conviction in the player, I would give it up.
Did you have anybody else?
No. So I had the collection of offensive tackles. I didn't know if we would have the conversation about the Oregon State guy. And because I think you keep hearing, well, he can play guard and tackle, right? With that profile, I preferred Latham, but I was considering him. I was saying wherever that drop off is at tackle, like if you feel that there's a drop off from Latham, from Fashanu, from Latham, and then you feel like the next category is Mims and Guyton, I would try to trade up for that higher tier. Wherever you feel that drop off is, I would try to trade up for that. But the one that I felt I liked Fashanu, and then I thought Latham because of the versatility.
Just generally speaking, I want to say that trading up and thinking that you have a degree of certainty on a prospect and giving up draft equity to do it is usually not great.
Agreed.
And so, unless it is Dallas Turner, I think I could sort of talk myself into potentially. And I like Terrion Arnold a lot. It would depend on the price. But I think they're in good position to stay at 22 and get I do not think that they should trade up for a tackle. Because I think it's a unique opportunity to sit at 22 and get a top 15 caliber offensive tackle.
I actually think that they're in position to trade down. Now,
I agree with that.
Yeah. I don't know if there's going to be a big demand to move up to 22.
There's not usually a ton of movement, from 19 on. Now the Eagles have done it before, but
let's say Michael Penix falls out of the top 20, and he's there at 22, and a team in the second round wants to move up. I would consider that and add a second rounder next year or something of that nature, like similar to the Dallas Goedert trade that they did a few years ago. And it takes a lot. It depends how far back you fall. But a team at the top of the second wants to move down, or say a receiver slips and Carolina is like, man, how's Brian Thomas still on the board here? Let's trade up, and then you go to the top of the second round. And then I feel like you can get a good tackle there. And
they lost their third round pick. Maybe you get a third round pick back at some point.
So I think trading down would maybe be more appealing. But the player that jumps out to me is Dallas Turner, and then Brock Bowers. I don't love trading up for a tight end, but I really like the player. And then if you feel like there's a drop off at offensive tackle.
Okay, good discussion.
Fun show.
Got to it.
Yeah, weird opening, but. Yeah. There's one commenter. I read every YouTube comment. We all know that. There's one commenter who does not like how we start the shows with small talk, and every time he's like,
I got skip the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, he's like, skip the first 10 minutes, but then he always chimes in like, I really like this talk. But
he's watching, so
he's watching. We appreciate it.
He's sticking around.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I think he's just doing it. He's doing it because he knows you're reading. I think deep down he loves it.
I read everything.
I know you do.
Yeah, message boards. Comments.
I feel very confident that deep down, he likes it.
He likes it.
He likes being able to complain about it.
We gotta get these iTunes comments back going. We haven't had one in like 2 weeks. We gotta get those rolling again.
Well, show a little skin, maybe it'll happen.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Bless my skills and pull my tail.
There you go. They'll like your dinosaur impression. Fun show coming up. We have a very popular guest coming tomorrow.
Go ahead.
I was
trying to think of someone very popular. I don't know.
I was pitching it to
Demi
you.
Lovato. Is she popular?
I was pitching it to you. Can we say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got Baldy coming
Fletcher.
on.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. We got Baldy
Emily
coming
Berman.
on. That is not happening on this show. I would be afraid of what she reveals. Brian Baldinger.
Wait till you see how he walks down the stairs.
Brian Baldinger, we'll have on tomorrow. Excited for that. Always good talking Baldy. We're going to get into some of these offensive line conversations with him because, he's grinding the film on these old linemen. So looking forward to that. And then Bo and I are actually going to have a meeting right after the show where we're mapping out the next few weeks. And I've already kind of brainstormed how we're going to lay this out. I'm curious what Bo thinks. But we are going to go deep into draft discussion during these next weeks. I promise you it's not going to be a situation where it's like Wednesday before the draft and we're introducing you to players. You are going to hear...
I mean, I disagree with that. There's always players to introduce.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, all right, let's talk about the draft. It's this week. So,
Yeah, so?
Yeah, we're going to get into it during these next few weeks. Excited to do so.
I will make no such kind of promise. We're going to talk about whatever we want to talk about. That's what we're here for. All right, good stuff. Thank you to everybody for watching and listening. Thank you to Chris Mad Dog Russo. Thank you to...
Why?
Well, that was the beginning. Oh,
that's what you were doing. Okay, I didn't put it together. I just thought you had some insomnia cookies when you walked in. We got to get insomnia cookies to
and they get a lot of free press.
Yeah.
Although everybody probably thinks that they're THC infused.
I don't know what that means.
You don't know what that means?
I'm familiar with what that means. I can't give testimony for that.
Okay. Mike asks, what about the trivia question you posed at the end of Tuesday's show? I got a couple of responses on Twitter about looking back for the last time a team made the Super Bowl with at least 2 members of the starting secondary being white. And I forgot to look at what the answer is. So I will.
It was the Los Angeles Rams people were coming up with.
When?
I'll tell you real quick here. We got a few of these responses.
Oh, I only saw 2 responses.
Yeah, 2 of these responses.
Big Mike, I believe, said Super Bowl 1, but I thought that was a joke.
XIV, so 14. Nolan Cromwell and Dave Elmendorf.
Yeah, those sound like white guys.
from the LA Rams.
Nolan and Dave.
That is from Paul Arch 65. So thank you, Paul, and really impressed that you know that.
Help, he's beating me. Ah! Look at that's him calling for safety help.
Okay. All right. Thanks for watching.
Fast.
You want to close the show?
Bless my scales and pull my tail. All right. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles Show. Thank you for everybody watching and listening. We will talk to you tomorrow at noon. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.